yeah, so with that, I would like to turn it over to DM. So she is really kind of running the show, I guess, from here on out, but she will take it from there. But I'll keep running your slides, DM, if you want to just tell me when to advance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone. I hope you can hear me. Like Debbie mentioned, my name is Dana Marie Thomas. I am known throughout the lab as DM. I work in Elijah Hotchkiss's area under Strategic Energy Security. And we kicked off the JISEA summer webinar series last week with Dr. Troy Nash and Ariel Nash. And we basically wanted to give researchers an opportunity to hear from new voices like Debbie mentioned, and we're working on understanding the migration-based impacts on energy systems. So we're honored to host these experts and thought leaders and hope that these webinars can provide new insights as well as serve as a launching point for new projects and partnerships investigating in this space. So the webinars are going to feature various academics. We have a demographer today, sector-specific experts, contributors from HBCUs and minority-serving institutions, and we're going to explore multi-faceted challenges and opportunities resulting in demographic shifts due to climate impacts. Like Debbie mentioned, the webinars will take place on Wednesdays from 12 to 1:30, and like I said, we started last week. And then if you can advance the next slide, please. Today's speaker is Dr. Samson O. I call him O. And Dr. Samson is a demographer, research scientist, and data scientist with a robust commitment to leveraging his expertise in health policy, research, advisory, and assurance services. Dr. O focuses on the efficient utilization of healthcare resources in compliance with international standards applicable globally. Dr. Samson holds a PhD in applied demography from the University of Texas at San Antonio and an MPH in public health from Texas A&M University and a BS in demography and social statistics from the Obafemi Awolowo University. His academic background and professional experience make him a valuable asset to any research team, particularly in the realm of health policy and demographic studies. And now I would like to present Dr. Samson.
So thank you everyone once again for having me here today. I want to especially thank Dr. Thomas for the introduction and inviting me to come and present on this topic. Like she had said, I'm a demographer and I'm excited about telling you all about population demographic projections and how it can be applicable in energy planning. So the topic I'll be presenting on is the role of demographic projection in energy planning and understanding the impact of internal migration driven by climate change. First, I will briefly define demography and its concept. Then I will proceed to explaining demographic projections and estimations and some of the methods we employ to estimate population. And also, more importantly, I will touch on the data sources for demographic estimations, and I will also briefly discuss migration as a component of demographic change. Then we will have the questions and answer time, and we can, discuss all of our questions. Sorry, yeah. So demography, I will simply define it as the study of human population dynamics in relation to the changes in the interplay of birth, death, and migration. So those three components are the main three things that we examine in demography in the simplest form, let me put it that way. For demographers, we are interested in those three variables, and they influence the total population size, the distribution including age structures and sex composition. So the key factors are birth, death, migration patterns, population size, age distribution, and sex composition. And the way we, calculate or come about population growth, or to examine if a population is growing, is to, look at all these three components by adding the natural increase to net migration. And there I gave two formulas here to show what we do. This is the basic form of the formula, so it's much more complicated than this, but this is what we look in essence. We just want to see the difference between birth and death, and what the net migration is. Then we'll be able to estimate what the population, how the population is growing, and at what rate the population is growing. To plan and make informed policy for the present population, as well as anticipating future needs of a population, demographers, we use existing data to estimate and project into the future. So in doing this, there are two broad methods that we employ. We call it mathematical method and the component method. The mathematical method is, we don't usually use it to make policies, because it's just too simple. All we do is based on the mathematical method, which is based on growth rates of a population between two periods, usually two censuses, can be used to estimate what population will be in the future, but it's more simplistic. There are major disadvantages of that mathematical method is that the estimation ignores information of annual birth and death and migration. So it's just more like we take, what is the total population in one census? Let's say the census that was done in 2020 and that of 2010, then we can now project into maybe the next 5 or 10 years and say, given that the population is growing between 2010 and 2020 at this rate, then population the next 10 years should grow at this rate, which is, there is a lot of fallacy in those kind of estimation. So we don't usually use it for planning in a population, though we can just use it as a rough estimate to say, okay, if this population is growing at this rate, there is likelihood that they can grow at that rate, but it's not certain that they will grow at that rate, because the method assumes linearity, which it's not so. The many changes in populations are sudden and discontinuous rather than emerging gradually. Since the changes in population number at each age depends on the size of the cohort moving through the age structure, to address this, we need a method that calculates changes in cohort sizes through time and accounting for the effect of fertility, mortality, migration, and that is where the component method comes in. The component methods look at the cohort, so it looks at as in different cohorts, as in saying maybe age 0 to 4, age 5 to 9, age 14 to 20, to see how many of those cohorts are surviving to the next cohort. So let's say in 2020, there were 100 babies that were given birth to, but in 2021, how many of those babies survived into 2021, and how many of those survived into 2023? Then we compare that with the total fertility rates using a different kind of adjustment to be able to, get an accurate number and say this is what the population of the country will be in the next 5 years. And this component method is usually done in 5 years, because the shorter the period, the more accurate the estimates you are going to have. So other methods that we explore is spatial analysis using GIS tools. So we can, based on the data that have been collected in the past, maybe like housing data, we can see that, okay, how many households were living in a particular place in 2021, and see how many households that are living there in another year. Then we can see that, okay, this population is growing at a particular rate, or use some kind of maps to show that, okay, the difference between those two periods are significant. So more likely that this population is growing and they need to be attended to. And we also use survey to estimate, and that is what what's it called? I will get more into it later in the presentation. That is what the census does. So for every year that there is no censuses, they use what's it called survey to give American community surveys to be able to estimate some of the population and what is going to happen in the future. What are the application of these in energy planning? With this, we'll be able to identify future hotspots of energy demand, and we can plan the energy infrastructure in areas of projected population growth. So having all of these kind of numbers and stuff will help us to be able to project, okay, if this population is growing at this rate, then the infrastructure we have on ground, will they be able to handle the things, as in, be able to serve the people the way it should, or should we improve on them? Should we develop some other types of energy system that will benefit the people and all of that? So the data sources for demographic estimation. So I was talking a lot about how the estimations are made and are calculated, but thankfully, the US Census Bureau have all of these calculations done for us. So all we need to do is just pick the numbers or pick the data from their website, and we can, put those in our own estimation or use those to make decisions. So we don't have to do the calculation or trying to get into how to estimate or project into future for a particular population. So they have this data in aggregate forms, and they have them in unit forms where you can get individual representing each persons involved in what's it called, contained in the surveys. So you use some advanced survey method to be able to now estimate for the whole population. But all of this is being done and housed with the US Census Bureau. US Census Bureau is the powerhouse for demographic data. They have the decennial data as well as the community surveys, which are virtually all social demographic variables that can be used to inform population projection. So they have data on unemployment rate, they have data on the total births, they have data on race and ethnicity, the distribution within a particular population and places. They have data on educational attainment, and all of these are the variables that could help us to, determine how we should make policy for a particular place or a geographical location. Because then we know that, okay, these are the set of people that live in this area. This is what they can afford in terms of energy, or in terms of what they can, pay for electricity and all of that. And there are other sources too. They give there are other Census Bureau data sets which we can use for migration. So they have the data for migration separately from other ones. So I've added all the links here, and I want to say specifically for people that are really interested in seeing what the data is and all of that, and maybe uses R and Python. There is a professor from University of Texas, I think, or Texas State, that have designed a very good package. You can use the API directly in R to access some of this data, and makes the tabulation very, very easy compared to going to their website and downloading individually and all of that. But this makes it very much easy to download some of those demographic variables, total population for each region, total population for racial groups and all of that. And another source for migration data is the RRS. This database is year to year, and it addresses changes reported on individual income tax return filed with the IRS. So yearly, we all know that we file our tax return. So the information of where people were, as in a year before and where they have presently is compared and published on IRS data, and we have that data also is a good source for knowing how migration is flowing within the US. And lastly, there is this other one that we can use to have idea of what is happening in terms of human activity. The nighttime light data from the Defense Meteorological Satellite Program and the VIIRS, they are primary data source to measure human activity from region, global scales, and the like. And the nighttime light data can quantifiably characterize the intensity of the socioeconomic activities and urbanization of a particular area. It will tell you, okay, the light, as in the intensity of light in this area in the last 30 years has increased compared to what it used to be, as in people are using more energy in this area and they are using less energy in that area. So we can use all of those to, put them in our own model to determine to what extent energy is being used in an area, or to what extent energy will be needed in the future in an area. These data, they are good to quantify temporal changes in electricity consumption. So I want to, briefly touch on migration as a component of demographic changes. So migration, as it's defined, is the movement of people from one geographical location to another, usually to have a better life. So people usually move, as in most cases, to have a better life from where, as in compared to where they were living before. And when this movement is done between countries, within country borders, if you are moving from, say, Mexico to the US, or from US to the UK, or once it crosses two country borders, then it refers to as international migration. And when it's done within the border of a country, then it's referred to as internal migration. But I would like to emphasize that natural increase, that means the difference between the birth and death, is the main determinant of population growth, while migration may serve as a stabilizer. So as high rate of natural increase can be offset by a large net out migration, and a low rate of natural increase can be countered by a high level of net migration. Essentially, the effect of migration on population growth rates are far smaller than the effect of changes in fertility and mortality. So that being said, so I think that has answered my question of how important is migration in population growth. So migration is more like a stabilizer. It can determine the growth of a population to a large extent. It can help to stabilize the population, but it can really make huge difference in population growth. So the next question will now be, what is the effect of internal migration driven by climate change? So climate-induced migration refers to movement of people due to changing environmental conditions such as rising sea level, extreme weather events, and prolonged drought. In recent times, we've seen examples of extreme weather in the US. However, these displacements due to extreme weather events is usually temporary, and people tend to move back once things have settled down. When things have become safe, people tend to move back. We can see the example in coastal flooding in Louisiana, leading to population displacement, increased wildfire in California, and all of that. But why there is no concrete evidence from available data to suggest that the effect of this climate change is driving internal migration in the US, the effect of climate change can interact with other factors such as economic opportunity and politics to drive migration. Nonetheless, available data shows that states having extreme weather conditions are having deficits in net migration. So my next slide is, this slide is going to show you. So looking at Texas, sorry, I don't know. Looking at Texas, yeah, so this is showing that in migration and out migration from Texas. So Texas gained a lot, about 97%, about 97,000 or around 98,000 population in net migration. So people are moving in from California, moving in from Florida, moving in from LA, and I think majority of people that came into Texas came from California. But let's look at California, which is one that is prone to wildfire. We can see that California lost majority of his population to Florida, VA, South Carolina, New York, and what's it called? And sorry, those are the ones that went into. Sorry, this is I meant to show California. So this is California. So people moving from California, 79,000 moved from California to Texas. So 64,000 moved to Arizona. So these are area prone to, but there is no research or evidence that has shown that people are living areas that are prone to wildfire in California, or that all of this is just because of the wildfire in California. So this presents an opportunity for us to research and see. And thankfully, the Census Bureau has a good, as in they have the data that can show us that, okay, at least I think at county level, I think at county and metropolitan areas, they can show us that, okay, these are the number of people that moved away from this area and the places they are going to. So we will be able to assess that, okay, maybe there's an association between these movements and the extreme weather events happening in those areas. Another one is, I think, Louisiana. Yeah, Louisiana too shows. Louisiana is losing population. So about 27,000 of its population went into Texas, 8,000 went out. So these are the people losing population, and they are known to have extreme weather events. So it seems there's an association between the weather events and the migration, but we can't definitively say because research has not been carried out and we've not seen any kind of paper on this to say, okay, this is really significant. So it's really giving opportunity for us to research and work in this area to be able to ascertain that it is the extreme weather that is making people to move. So that being said, so what is the implication of demographic projection or planning and migration and all of that to energy planning? Changing energy demands, population growth, including internal migration, can lead to increased energy demands in receiving area and decreased demand in areas that they were living. And infrastructural requirements, as these people are living, new houses might needed to be built, and they will all need electricity, and increased load on existing grid also. It's some of the things that we need to plan for, so that we know, okay, if this population is growing at this rate, do we need to improve on what we have on ground, or do we need to just leave that and build something new entirely? And that gives opportunity for a renewable energy, as in renewable energy potential for the renewable energy projects in resettlement area. The challenges and opportunities. So for all of this to be able to, for us to be able to have good projections, we need data. We need accurate and reliable data. So I would suggest, if it's possible, partnering with other agencies to, maybe as the census collects the American Community Survey, you had your own questions to it, you negotiate with them to have your own questions that are interesting to you, to some of those surveys, so that you can do proper analysis. And also innovation in data collection, which is is an opportunity for us. Enhanced collaboration across sectors, maybe involving some of demographers, anthropologists, speaking to people to actually understand the reasons why they were moving and at what rate they were moving and all of that, and development of resilient energy system. In conclusion, I want to ask us how can you at National Renewable Energy Laboratory take a more interdisciplinary approach and incorporate demographic data into energy system planning and modeling? Thank you.